Welcome to the second best of 5 of the evening. We're on Belcher Vestige, spawning to the bottom right hand side, playing random, and spawning as Zerk. We have Lady Azylis. And to the top left hand corner, in yellow, a new member of the FSL season mode, playing Protoss. We have the girl with a funny name, the woman with a funny name. It's actually Jailbreaker. Opening with the gateway and a full wall off here, since she probably doesn't know what her opponent is at all. So sending around a probe in order to get quick information about what her opponent actually is, realizing that it's Zerk, who's already taking a hatch first here. So, Extractor going down right afterwards. Azylis' main race was Protoss in Season 1 and Season 2. She's just recently switched to Random and wanted to participate playing that race this season. So, Jailbreaker also taking a second Nexus pretty early on after seeing that it was a hatch first build. Just wants to throw down the Cybernetics core right now. Actually, wide open gap here, so if her opponent actually wanted to ever run by into her opponent's main base, that should be fairly easy to do for her. But then, of course, she rather wants to wall off this part of the map as soon as possible, just waiting for the 100 minerals to arrive in order to throw down a pylon. That will also help her defending this base once a mothership core is out, but she needs a cybernetics core for it, so she just has to wait. In the meantime, of course, there will be no cybernetics core without any gas, but she already has collected the necessary amount of 100 in order to get it, and has then pulled probes from the assimilator in order to get a better mineral income and plant down all of the important mineral-heavy structures before that. Ooh, even going into a forge here, which is actually quite interesting. So at the same time, we have Lady Azylis going for spawning pool with quick speed and a Baneling Nest. So seems as if she really wants to break through with a Baneling Bust. Pretty old-fashioned here. So let's see if she will actually be able to do that. Sends a lot of links already across the map, probably somewhere around here, or maybe even at the third. Okay, just tugging them back nicely here so that her opponent won't sniff out what's going on too early here. And the biggest problem for Jailbreaker is that she doesn't even have any idea of what's going on. She has a probe over here just scouting a typical attack. Well, actually, it's not the typical attack path. It's more like her own attack path, but not the attack path of her opponent. So I think it would have been better for her to just put this probe over at that watchtower, because then she would have just realized what was going on. And there we have the first Banelings morphing already quite far away from her opponent's base. The wall-off is not yet complete. I mean, there's a wall-off over here, but there's still plenty of way in order to just sneak by a few links. Oh, she has a cannon up here, which is actually quite interesting there, but still a wide open gap that can actually easily be gone through. Okay, the Baneling's actually detonating only in one of those pylons, not really getting anything important. Jailbreaker just fires up the photon overcharge immediately. At least one zealot dies here, but that was totally not cost effective what Lady Azylis did here. Just rallying more links across the map. I mean, she doesn't have any saturation to speak of at the natural base, so she's really committed here, needs to deal way more damage than she actually did, if you can even call that damage. Photon cannon again just being thrown down, another photon cannon over here after Jailbreaker has realized what's going on. She even walked in a sentry in order to maybe get out a force field, but it gets taken out before it can actually plant down the force field. And like I said, I mean, there was a wall-off over to the left-hand side, but not a complete wall-off of the natural base. So finally a lot of links just streaming into the main base. We have at least one probe, but the probe will probably just fall down pretty quickly here. At least the photon cannon is taking down a few more links, but now finally the links can move in. Another photon overcharge gets thrown down, but it was the last one, and unfortunately the links are already in, so no more photon overcharge available, and actually no pylon available to just cast it on. Well, finally the zealots will probably just clear off all of these links. In the meantime, no more links streaming in, so despite the 14 workers killed, which is a read quite a lot. I mean, she's still ahead in workers. She still has 2 bases. She has Nexus that she could actually just chrono boost. And, well, I mean, Azylis is still trying to commit to more and more Lings and Banelings, is probably expecting her opponent to finally wall off that region, which she doesn't do. And if these Banelings actually get good connection with all of these Zealots, they could easily be taken out here. So if Azylis just, okay, has to be careful, doesn't want to go into another Photon Overcharge, but actually it's not even ready yet. And even if it was, there was only 1 Photon Overcharge available. The Photon Cannon's helping out tremendously. And there is reset it. Okay, actually only getting 1 Zealot here. Nice move there by Jailbreaker to just moving these Zealots back into the corners so that they won't get hit by the Banelings. And it seems as if Lady Azylis has now realized that she will probably not be able to break through with Lings alone. Just move them backwards completely, and now transitions into a Roach Warren and also building more drones. Now, of course, giving her opponent some time to finally get the economy back up and maybe even getting some sort of tech out. Yeah, just getting a Twilight Council, a few more Photon Cannons, more Static D in order to defend this base even better. So, think that both Nexus are now rallied towards the main mineral field, so she will just keep on replenishing all of her workers here, while Azylis is mostly doing the same, trying to get into a lair, probably wants to get the roach speed as soon as possible here. Is already building a few roaches, probably expecting some sort of counter push that she wants to prepare for. So in the meantime we get a Templar Archive here, probably for Archons, I guess. I don't really think it's going to be for Storm. So since she's already banked up quite a lot of gas, I think she really wants to get into some Archons here. And the Archons actually work well against the Lings especially, but also against a small amount of Roaches. They just tank a lot of shots and also deal splash damage to the first line of Roaches. So can work out quite nicely. Even getting, yeah, the Protoss Shield upgrade, which should just totally tell us that she's actually going into Archons here, because they profit from the shield upgrade the most, and now we get charge as well, so it's going to be charged with Archon. Again, pretty old-fashioned here. We see the old-fashioned ladies and gentlemen, there by Lady Azylis going for a good old Baneling bust, and now we actually have Jailbreaker going into Speedlot Archon, something I haven't seen in quite some time, especially not with any immortal support whatsoever. So, quite interesting here, seeing the Battle of Wings of Liberty, or maybe even Heart of the Swarm, you could say. So, I mean, in the meantime, both just taking some breath here. Jailbreaker is already preparing to take a 3rd base over to the right-hand side, while Lady Azylis has already planted her down, just waiting for it to finish, and then maybe saturating it, is just producing drones like crazy, and like I said before, getting the Leal Reconstitution upgrade, the speed for Roaches, while also getting a Hydralisk Den, probably for Lurkers. Later on, I feel. Maybe she just wants to hit a timing with Roaches and Hydras in order to take her opponent down before she can actually gather enough units to be dangerous for her, but we'll see. I mean, the shield upgrade is almost done. We already have 2 Archons out. Another High Templar warping will allow these 2 Templar to morph into another Archon Fusion Dance. Not really being done. That's why I like the Carbot Starcraft's mod, because there you can actually see how they dance and then finally morph into an Archon, which is just great to look at. So getting the defenses up at the 3rd base here, but the Lings come in trying to take out these Photon Cannons before they can actually get walled in. But there's actually 2 Photon Cannons there, which make it a bit more difficult there. And finally the Speedlots and the Archons arrive, now even taking out that Overlord over there, so no more damage to be dealt by Lady Azylis over here. Tries to get a few Hydralisks now after seeing the composition that her opponent is obviously trying to go to. So she wants to have some damage output in the form of the Hydras that can, while the other units just keep the army of the Protoss tucked back, the Hydras can usually just dish out a tremendous amount of damage, especially if you have a bit more of them than only 6 that were just building a minute ago. So, another Forge just being planted down, so it seems as if Jailbreaker actually tries to go into a fairly late macro game here. Otherwise it wouldn't really make sense to build another forge to get out the upgrades as quickly as possible. If you want to have upgrades quite a lot, you usually just want to go for the late game if you don't really want to hit a timing push. But for a timing push you usually only need one forge and not two. So as soon as you plant down another one, you usually want to get ready for the late game by getting the upgrade advantage. And at the same time we see that Lady Azylis is also trying to get her upgrades as well to not fall behind for too much. Well, the Protoss Shields upgrades is already reaching or moving towards level 2. So Archons being at 2-1 here. And yeah, Archons just have an amazing amount of shields here. We can just have a look at that. 350 shields. And shields completely regenerate, while armor does not. So if a Protoss unit only loses its shields, the shields can be completely replenished, and thus the unit will have effectively even more hit points than usual. While, for example, Zealots have only 50 shields but 100 armor, and once the shields are done and the armor gets taken away, then it will never come back. So these Zealots will actually lose hit points in the long run. While an Archon, if you actually keep it alive, can just get outside the battle and then just return with actually full health once more. And that's what Jailbreaker tries to make use of here with the second level Protoss Shields upgrade. Because then the shields will even take more damage before, or will even be able to sustain more damage before they get eradicated. So let's see. We have a nice little Hydra army here. Do we already have the Lurker Den? Not yet. So it seems as if actually Lady Azylis just wants to win this match for now with mostly Hydras. I mean, there's a few Roaches in here, a few Lings, and some Banes as well. She's really preparing for an all-out big push by a Jailbreaker, which she's actually not really doing. Just moving her army across the map, going from the left to the right, from the right to the left. I mean, she would actually be pretty... well, I mean, maybe not. She has a lot of cannons over here, so if you were thinking of run-bys and that she might be vulnerable to them, then she actually is not. Even in her natural base, well, maybe her natural base is a little bit vulnerable, but I think she tries to get rid of that by planting down more pylons. And the main base, we also have 2 cannons here and a very small entrance. So there's the engagement finally. Just a lot of units moving in, but we have a lot of Banelings here, Tasteless. And a lot of Hydras as well. Unfortunately, a lot of units are quite far away from the main battle here, but it seems... oh, there's also a unit chunk down here, so never mind. Yeah, that she will actually be able to easily take those down. Will now even get 2 Archons for free, which is a really terrible trade for Jailbreaker here. Losing 2 Archons this is a lot of resources just lost for nothing, almost no damage dealt. And it seems as if Azylis is now comfortable with moving out after realizing, well, I've just almost killed all of your units down there. You were just lucky having the Mothership Core with you, being able to recall to one of your bases, but I had the bigger force when you attacked me, so I will probably have the bigger force when I now go out and attack you. Of course, maybe the terrain will work against her, but she's moving in, getting a nice concave here. Only 1 force field available, maybe the second one, another one. So now, of course, the odds even out, because standing right in the photon overcharge here, actually Lady Azylis took quite an unfavorable engagement here, especially because a lot of her units were actually not participating in the fight, because the AI just sent them towards this area of the map, so they wanted or could have actually attacked from behind, but at that point Lady Azylis rather wanted to retreat, since she's already lost a lot of her units there for not really getting the amount of damage that she wanted to deal. And now we have, of course, the Colossi coming in after realizing what her opponent was doing at the 3rd base engagement. Jailbreaker would, of course, just immediately go into the direct counter for Hydras, which are Colossi. Or actually Storm. I don't really know if I'd actually gone into Colossi here, or if I would rather go for Storm, but I think Colossi are also good. If your opponent decided to go into Lurkers, then he would have also at least some ranged unit that could just take out the Lurkers from further away. While with Storm, you just have to hit the Lurkers being burrowed, and then one Storm alone just doesn't take them out. So you need several of those. Yes, Storm would have probably been easier to get, since the Templar Archive was already down, but in the long run I feel that the Colossus are actually the better choice. So, Lynx moving across the map, trying to scout for potential fourth base over here, while actually Jailbreaker already had a probe over here when Lady Azylis was walking across the map in order to attack for third base. But yeah, just sending 2 Lynx squads over to the potential fourth base places and just taking on that one. Unfortunately leaves that one probe behind, so it would be able to just plant down another one once these Lynx are gone. In the meantime, we have another pylon over here because Jailbreaker as well just wants to make sure that nothing expands over here without her being aware of it. So another Lynx squad, okay, just retreating from the fourth base over here. Seems that this time around Jailbreaker just wants to have a pylon ready just in case, and will now probably just plant down her fourth base, while both armies just avoiding each other without knowing it so far. So there's the big Protoss death ball. We have a lot of Colossi inside the mix, a lot of speed lots and also Stalkers. We have the better upgrades by far as well, and yeah, the Archons also dealing some additional damage from behind. Archons deal splash damage and additional damage to everything biological, which actually everything Zerg has is. Even buildings are biological, so Archons even do additional damage to buildings once they get close enough. So, don't really know what Jailbreaker is doing here, just moving forwards and backwards. Seems to be a little bit uncertain whether she wants to attack or not, or maybe she just wanted to show presence, irritating her opponent a little bit, making her produce... Colossi just being stuck here at the cliff. So, don't really know now. Some of these Colossi are just really far away from the rest of the main army here. Yeah, but of course she's just a little bit lucky there that her opponent does not have her army close to hers, because that could really end unfortunate there. So, finally going towards the fourth base, it's just being saturated. We have the rest of the army here, but mostly Hydras, and Hydras not so good against Colossi. Just moving back, losing the first Colossi that was out in the open there, just retreating the other one, and now 5 Colossi. Whoa, sorry for that. 5 Colossi actually just tearing down all of these Hydras. Lady Azylis just doesn't really know if she wants to retreat or not. I think once she saw the Colossi, she desperately wanted to retreat, but she couldn't, because she knows that if she retreats she will lose that hatchery over here, which is really important because her other bases are getting pretty dry here, and it seems as if she now just wants to move in with a few more units here, maybe trying to catch these Colossi off guard. Okay, Roach is moving in, just buffering some damage here, but it seems as if it's just not enough. Too many heavy hitters just also firing from behind, the Colossi dealing terrible damage, but also the Archons and the Immortals. I mean, this army was just designed to take out the composition that Lady Azylis had, and now it's only Roaches against a big chunk of Colossi, Immortal and Archon here. The Stalkers don't really stand a chance, and the sentries are also just cannon fodder, but it doesn't really matter. Now only Lynx are being produced because there's just not enough resources. There are resources, but it's mostly Lynx. I don't really know why. It's okay, but that's GG, taking out Azylis in the first on the first map, and Jailbreaker takes the lead. Second map is Honor Grounds. We have Jailbreaker. No, actually no, never mind. We have our random player spawning as her original main race. To the top left-hand corner in pink, it's Lady Azylis. And to the bottom right, standard usual Protoss player. In yellow, it's Jailbreaker. Which just has this very weird name, because she usually plays on an A, and that's just the name of her EU account. So, walling off, of course, will probably take a base back here as quickly as possible. Same thing probably for Lady Azylis. I mean, this map is just huge, so you should actually get away with an early Nexus here, but maybe both players just want to play it sure, and will produce a few more production structures and also a few units early on. We'll see. But they don't really know each other very well. Like I said, Jailbreaker, it's Jailbreaker's first season. So it's, of course, difficult for her to get a good grasp of her opponent's playstyle, but so it is for her opponents, of course, because they don't really know her from previous seasons. So, Lady Azylis moving in, finally finding her opponent here, seeing that it's cross-spawn, and there we have Jailbreaker just coming back with one of those probes. Jailbreaker so far has not found out where her opponent actually is, but will with this probe over here. Is just following Lady Azylis' probe because she wants to make sure that no sort of proxy shenanigans getting planted down by this probe at least. So Nexus in the making. No Nexus though for Lady Azylis. She really goes straight into double gateway, and Cybernetics Core will probably produce 2 Stalkers right now, because that would usually be what you want to do if you committed so heavily into tech and waited so long for these gateways to make good use. So there's the first Stalker. Second Stalker will still need a little bit more time for money, but it seems as if she doesn't actually want to use it, but rather wants to go for an expand now. No, okay, never mind, that's Jailbreaker here, just checking if a second base has already been taken, which it has not. So she now knows about that, but in the meantime she's already planted down her own Cybernetics Core, is not already researching the gateway upgrade. So that's something that's missing for her right now. Even getting a Forge here once more, quite early on, that's really interesting. So I don't really know what she wants to do. Again, just going for static D. So interesting choice there. While in the meantime we have Lady Azylis going for a proxy robotics facility, and probably later on a gateway, so that it will give her the possibility to warp in quickly at that pylon here. It seems as if Lady Azylis just wants to break through on one base after realizing that she won't really catch up with the early expansion. I mean, even if she had waited with the Stalker production now and just waited for 400 minerals to expand behind her opponent would have had her own expansion for so much longer that she would have already been far behind in the economic game. And of course she would have just wasted a lot of resources into all of these production facilities. But of course now she's pretty all in. This one attack she wants to set up really needs to kill her opponent, or at least deal critical amounts of damage close to killing her opponent, while maybe expanding behind it herself. But yeah, I mean, the damage has to be terrifying. And we'll see if it's actually going to work out or not. More and more Stalkers being produced now crossing the map. The Cybernetics Core will finish the Warp Gate upgrade in just a bit. Where's actually the Chrono Boost? Oh yeah, it's still on the Robotics Facility, never mind. And there's the Gateway going down, because like I said before, we want to have quick warp-ins on the pylons. And just in case you have just started watching Legacy of the Void once more, but have played a lot of Wings of Liberty and Heart of the Swarm. In Wings of Liberty and Heart of the Swarm, the other 2 iterations of StarCraft, you actually had the possibility to warp in at every pylon at a usual speed rate. But now, if you don't have a gateway close by, you will actually suffer these slow warp-ins at a pylon here, as we can see right now, because the gateway hadn't been done yet. So, in the meantime, we saw Jailbreaker just scouting this proxy over here with one of her probes. So she actually knows what's up. She has 2 photon cannons in position, which is not a whole lot. And she only has 1 pylon that could, again, also easily be taken out. I mean, if Lady Azylis actually focuses down this pylon with the Immortal here, this should be fairly easy to take all of these structures out, plus the photon overcharge here. So I think while focusing down that pylon, she of course takes all of these shots from the photon cannons, the mothership core, and the 2 Stalkers here. But I mean, she is all in. She needs to do something at some point. She could wait for another warp prism, or maybe even use a warp prism in order to get back into the mineral line of the natural base. What she doesn't know is that there are photon cannons. And now again, just trying to go in, just tearing down the first and also the second photon cannon with these 2 Immortals here. The force fields just separating the Immortals from the rest of the army there, but still there's just a lot of damage being dealt, and now finally these 2 structures are torn down, or are unpowered, as well as the 2 photon cannons and the pylon being taken down as well. More and more units getting warped in. and we now see another Immortal being produced, so I don't really know if Jailbreaker actually just has enough production facilities in order to keep this from going. I mean, she has the 2 sentries here, but the 2 sentries just barely have enough energy now to throw down 2 force fields, but she doesn't do it, and now the sentries even die. The rest of the army just gets engaged by all of these Zealots here. Zealots actually pretty good against the Immortals here. Immortals still firing like crazy and dishing out some damage towards these Stalkers, but now it seems as if Jailbreaker finally with some micro pushes Lady Azylis push back. And yeah, I mean, another Immortal is arriving, but of course 3 Immortals would be better than just 2. Also, not that much income anymore for Lady Azylis. That's just what's working against her in the long run. That her opponent just actually has 2 bases. The only thing that's really keeping her from losing right now is that because of the heavy pressure, Jailbreaker actually didn't ever, or hasn't ever managed to get all of these gateways up. So she has the income, but she just doesn't have the means to spend it. And, might now even lose the cybernetic score here, which would be pretty problematic, actually. There it goes down. So no more Stalkers there for her, but with the amount of Zealots, and maybe even later on speed incoming, I think she should still be able to take out all of these forces. The Immortals just being a little bit too slow here. Can't really get away from all of these Zealots. But now, of course, that's the biggest problem then. If you just try to engage an attack, if you want to retreat at one point, your Zealots are just so damn slow, and you will usually never be able to get away from your opponent if they don't let you. But now finally the gateways have finished. We now have 5 gateways worth of production and the economy to support it. So yeah, I think in the long run Lady Azylis just trying to micro her heart out, but the Zealots just tearing through all of these Stalkers here. Some adepts in the background, but this force is just way too big for her to beat, and it will only become bigger from now on with the gateways finally up. Yeah, she even has more gateways back here, so never mind. She actually had more gateways worth of production, but now she actually has 8 gateways worth of production. So every round that comes up, she will actually be able to warp in more units because she just has the better economy. And yeah, Lady Azylis is still all in. She just desperately tries to make this all in work. Now even getting some sentries into the mix, will probably try to split a few of these forces apart from the rest of the army in order to take them out without taking any losses herself, hoping that maybe with the next engagement she will be able to crush her opponent's forces. But I can't really see it happening. I mean, if you just have a look at the supply, I mean, the biggest difference is of course in workers, so don't be really fooled by that too much, but it's still a way bigger army. And like I said, it will just become bigger and bigger with every round, with every production round. Now, Jailbreaker even trying to take a 3rd base, probably expecting her opponent to have taken a 2nd base behind it, a natural base behind it. But yeah, okay, has to just cancel it straight away. No way to keep this one alive right now. Wants to retreat a little more. Do we actually have speed on these Zealots? No! I mean, the Twilight Council is just researching something. No! Oh, yes, we have. Never mind. We have it, because it was researching like crazy, even being Chrono Wizard. So yeah, with speed on these Zealots, I think this fight should be over with the next engagement here. These Speedlots will just close in the distance so quickly, tearing down all of these forces with just fearsome damage output, and the rest of the Stalkers fighting from behind. GG! And Jailbreaker takes the 2-0 lead. Paladino Terminal is our next map. We have Lady Azylis playing random and spawning as Protoss once more, which was her main race in Season 1 and Season 2. But now she switched to random, maybe being a bit lucky here, getting her old main race, because even though she's been playing random for quite some time now, of course, if you've played one race for quite some time, you will still feel more comfortable with it and will probably still perform a bit better. And to the bottom right, in yellow, we have Jailbreaker going for an early scout because, like I said, she doesn't know what her opponent is yet. She only knows random, but now knows that her opponent has gotten Protoss once more. Is going, of course, for a possible wall-off because she had to account for the possibility that her opponent would spawn as Zerg. So, just the gateway in front of the ramp, or not in front of the ramp, but on top of the ramp, because just in case, you never know what's going to happen. So Lady Azylis just chasing away that pesky probe over here, while sending another one in as well. Quite interesting here. Probably just wants to think, or to make her opponent think, that there was only one probe going towards the other side of the map and was then just retreating, while sending another one over in order to get a proxy done. And I think this is probably going to be a Stargate proxy, because we know Lady Azylis from earlier on, from other seasons, and she just loved doing proxy Stargate builds on a lot of different maps while she was maining Protoss. So I really think this is going to be a Stargate build, but we'll see in just a few seconds here. So, Cybernetics Core, just needing to finish, lining up with that pylon here quite nicely. So there's the Cybernetics Core done, there we have them, and it is a Stargate! Call me Prediction God. While Jailbreaker is going for an early Nexus here, not scouting again in order to see what her opponent is doing and if she is indeed expanding or not. So she might actually be quite vulnerable here for quite some time, especially against air units. But I think this is going to be another all-in here with another gateway incoming, so it's probably maybe going for one Oracle, trying to destroy the economy of her opponent, but then probably going into some Void Rays and trying to kill her opponent with just a few Void Rays and some gateway crap. So let's see how this is going to work out, and if I'm indeed once more correct with my predictions here. Just showing you how good I know my players. Or if I'm just making a fool of myself, predicting things that are not actually going to happen. Yeah, like I said, maybe an Oracle, but probably not, because she just doesn't want to make her opponent aware of the possible proxy Stargate, so she just goes into Void Rays immediately, just waiting for Warp Gate to finish, constructs 3 more gateways right behind it, and will then be able to just get a good force of Void Ray and yeah, gateway units, depending on what resources she just has left, so probably some Zealots and some Stalkers, in order to take her opponent out before she can actually build up anything. Jailbreaker again just relying a lot on these static defenses, which is a really rare sight for a Legacy of the Void Protoss. I mean, in PvP you don't really see photon cannons as static D that often, unless your opponent was cannon rushing you first. But yeah, now finally getting... this will probably be a little bit too late, I fear. Now finally going for the scout. We'll see that there's no base. Oh, actually, I think she would have missed it, right? Just walking this part, I think she would have missed it. Okay, just checking for some hidden tech somewhere behind that wall here. Oh, actually going for a proxy herself at the same time, but I think this will be just too late. Yeah, there's the Warp Gate research done. We have the first 4 Stalkers being warped in. We have 2 Void Rays here, and yeah, Void Rays just take out photon cannons so easily. But it seems as if now finally she's realized what's going on, and that an attack is bound to happen, and there it is. So taking out the pylon before it actually can do anything. Okay, now she just has to retreat from that photon overcharge here. Just trying to get a better angle where the photon overcharge can't really hit her. Trying to take down the mothership core and actually gets it. Losing a Void Ray though in the process. So okay, just having to wait for another Void Ray and a few more gateway units incoming. I mean, Jailbreaker is still holding so far, so let's see if she will actually be able to hold some more, but there's only a few cannons here, and charged up Void Rays can actually take out buildings quite quickly there. And the only units that Jailbreaker can produce, or actually has right now, are Stalkers here. Stalkers not really good against Void Rays, especially when they are charged up. Now taking out the Photon Cannons, these Stalkers just trying to focus down the Void Ray, and might, no, just barely do not get it. Finally another Mothership Core comes out, but there's no, actually there's one pylon over here that could get Photon overcharged. Still waiting for another Void Ray over here, and we have 3 more Stalkers incoming. Ah, there they are. I just thought she might have forgotten them, but she hadn't. She hasn't. And this force just gets bigger and bigger, and is actually, like I said, the actual anti-force against these Stalkers. I mean, with the 2 Void Rays just focus can focus fire down Stalkers so quickly, especially when charged up. And Lady Azylis just waiting for a good moment to charge up finally. I don't even know if the charge up change is already through, so that the Void Rays are now a lot... It doesn't seem to me like it, actually. It doesn't seem like it to me that the Void Rays actually get slower, but that maybe it's just a change that's bound to happen in a later version of the game, but not quite yet. But that was actually supposed to be done, that the Void Ray would get more slowly, or would just get slower. Okay, there it is. GG. Nothing she can actually do, just losing all of her forces, and she doesn't have an answer to these things. Lady Azylis shortens the distance with a 1-2. We're back on Proxima Station. Well, actually, not back. We're here for the first time on this evening. Spawning to the top right once more. Spawning as Protoss, although playing random. We have Lady Azylis. And to the bottom left, in yellow, playing her main race. It's Jailbreaker. So, leading 2-1. She only needs to win one more map in order to get the win for this best of 5 series, while her opponent has to win 2 in a row in order to win it all. So again, of course, Jailbreaker just sending out a very early probe here, wants to know what her opponent actually spawned as. Will probably be a little bit surprised to see that it's Protoss once more. So, okay, probe sees it's Protoss. Let's see how she actually reacts. Probably will not change that much. As I said again, she just builds the gateway close to the ramp because she had to expect her opponent to maybe spawn as Zerg. And she would have wanted to be able to seal off immediately, since a lot of random players, well, maybe not a lot of them, but some random players actually like to abuse the fact that their opponent do not know which race they spawn as, so sometimes they just go for some sort of early pool shenanigan, some sort of cheese. And if you haven't reacted beforehand, before you actually discover the cheese, it sometimes might be too late. So, cybernetics core being planted behind. Now we have seen that we don't really need the full wall off, so we don't do it. And it seems as if Azylis wants more! Just wants to go for a proxy, yeah? So, there's the pylon going down, and I think from the positioning of it, I think it's going to be another Stargate. So, it seems to me as if she just wants to go for the same build once more. Yeah, never change a winning tactic. So, in the meantime, just sending back that other probe that was just there to distract her opponent, thinking she was just leaving, while indeed she was going for a proxy pylon, and there it is, the Stargate once more, and then we will see another gateway, and then we will see more gateways back here. And once the cybernetics core has finished researching Warpgate, it's probably going to be the same push with a few Stalkers and a few Void Rays. But this time around, of course, we have a backdoor expansion, not a wide open expansion, and Azylis will have to fight upwards the ramp. So this actually is a little bit more problematic. Yes, the Void Race will grant her high ground vision, so that makes it a little bit more easy for her. Okay, let's see if this Stalker will actually find out something. This time around even sending a Stalker across the map, probably because it's a bit quicker than a probe. She really wants to get the information whether her opponent has taken a backdoor expansion or not. I mean, I kind of like the mind games. Who would expect the opponent to just cheese me the same way she cheesed me before? Especially on a map where it's so easy to take a backdoor expansion. So yeah, I mean, metagaming her opponent a little bit here. Actually not checking for the base back here, which is quite interesting. Just saw the one Stalker and the gateway. Don't really know what that really accomplished. Didn't really accomplish that much. I mean, she normally really wants to know if there's a base back here and what kind of tech her opponent is going into. I mean, just seeing that one Stalker here doesn't really tell her that much. But now she's walking around. Okay, maybe trying to check for some sort of proxies? No? Just sending the probe across the map once more. Maybe she again also wants to go for some sort of proxy, like on the last map, where she hit the pylon in her opponent's main base, behind that wall of fog. But I don't really know. I mean, this will hit sooner and harder. So let's see. There's only one pylon available for photon overcharge, and it's pretty far away from the ramp. So I think this building should be forfeit completely. Okay, there's the probe. Okay, trying to move in, but not getting the information if there's another base or not. Stalker is moving out. Now the rest of the Stalkers are moving in. Maybe moving in a little bit too closely to the pylon here. But yeah, first photon overcharge is done. Actually retreating quite far, I think. I think that's actually a little bit of a mistake. I think she should have really just waited down here, taking out this warp gate. That would have just crippled Jailbreaker's production quite a bit, because then she would have to wait for a lot more gateways to come in. But yeah, maybe she will be able to just take down that pylon with the prismatic alignment here. So two buildings actually unpowered, but 2 more are being powered. More gateways incoming. But it seems as if she might actually be able to take out her opponent here. Well, Jailbreaker at least managed to take down the Void Ray, which was 2 Void Rays, actually, both Void Rays, which was actually really important, and has again the additional photon cannons tucked in the back, which will now be able to just shoot at everything that comes up the ramp and position somewhere around here. But with the 2 additional gateways, and now maybe even repowering that gateway over here, I think again maybe she will be able to just outproduce her opponent in the long run, especially since she has that base in the back and has had it for quite some time here. So now finally Azylis trying to take out that warp gate over here, losing a Stalker in the process, unfortunately here, not really being careful with it. The force field just keeps the units out for a little bit longer, but it doesn't actually matter in the long run. But it seems as if now finally Jailbreaker just pulls some probes here as well, wants to engage this force. As long as there are not too many Void Rays in there, she still has 4 gateways worth of production, so could just always warp in a few more units. Now finally luring a few of the units into the photon cannon fire here. More and more Stalkers arrive, but we still only have 1 Void Ray, and the Void Ray usually being the heavy hitter here. So usually you would just want to have more than 1 actually just, yeah, charging it up once more in order to take out these Stalkers so friggin' fast here. Now again taking out another pylon, but it doesn't really matter. Not really getting her supply blocked, not really unpowering any of these gateways. So again, we have a lot more production available for Jailbreaker here, and if she just manages to hold up a little bit longer here, to hold out a little bit longer, Lady Azylis not producing anything of worth, although she has a lot of resources left, finally retreats a little bit, gets the chance to look back at that pylon, but the unit just takes so long to get to the front from back here, and also the Void Ray not being started for quite some time, so that actually put her back quite a lot and gave, or bought maybe, they actually give, I think, because she didn't really buy it herself, but actually gave Jailbreaker the possibility to get some more units out. That's of course a critical loss here now. Losing the cybernetics core, will not be able to produce any more Stalkers here. So now actually Lady Azylis might be able to just out-micro her opponent, if of course she cares microing, losing the other Void Ray as well. 1 more Void Ray coming in, but again, just being a little bit too slow with the reinforcements here. It just takes her too long to get always back to that pylon and warp in the units. I think she's just missing a lot of production rounds here, or has been missing, which is of course part of the defender's advantage. It's always easier for Jailbreaker to reinforce because she's right here. She's right in her base. She can just easily warp in more units, while Azylis, while microing at the front, has to jump back here, warp in units, and then just send them. But yeah, she's definitely lost maybe even 2 full production rounds worth of units, and it shows now. And she's still all in. I mean, okay, now she just tries, probably realizes that she will not be able to break her opponent, desperately tries to take a Nexus in her own base, or in the back door of her own base. But yeah, I mean, her opponent has been on 2 bases for quite some time, almost fully saturated. Even if she manages to contain her for a little bit longer, and I think that would actually be the best bet, just being down here, maybe even having a few sentries, and then just keeping her opponent tucked back for a little bit until you got your own economy up. Maybe you could then eventually get back into the game, but it doesn't really work out for that long. In the meantime, we have the Twilight Council being finished, and Blink is this time being researched, so not trying to get into charge for the Zealots. Since she already has a lot of Stalkers, I think that's a good bet just making sense, especially if when she has to fight against the Void Rays, she will be able to just blink underneath them and taking them out, like even with one shot actually, with that big amount of Stalkers here. So the Void Rays won't really matter any longer. That's actually the good call, I think. Getting some sentries, placing them in front of the base will make it quite difficult for your opponent to move out. Although you have to say, if you just realize that your opponent just waits here and wants to separate your army with force fields, picking off small chunks of it, you could just easily break through these backdoor rocks and move out that way without your opponent actually even noticing. So that would be quite interesting. Ooh, building a Templar Archive once more, so eventually wants to go into Arkans once she's finally moved out. In the meantime, Lady Azylis has actually bought herself some time in order to get her economy up and kinda equal to her opponent, but she's nowhere even close. I mean, 50 to 26 is not really what you want to have. Okay, all Void Rays charge up, dealing a lot of damage there to these Stalkers here, with more Stalkers incoming. Has to be careful not to lose any of these Void Rays. Again, just killing big chunks of these Stalkers here. Blink is not yet done, so now, unfortunately, really moving back into a little gap here where I don't really think she's in a good position here. Finally, the overcharge of the Void Rays, the Prismatic Alignment, just loses its firepower, and now it's only Stalkers and Stalkers versus yeah, a lot of Stalkers and Void Rays versus a lot of Stalkers and some Zealots here, destroying everything. It still was an okay-ish trade for Azylis, I think, the best she could really hope for with a small kind of army she had. But yeah, I mean, she's losing and losing ground minute after minute. 50 workers to 28. If we just have a look at the income tab, it actually doesn't look that bad as it's supposed to look, probably because most of the main base has already been mined out and this base is just hopelessly oversaturated. But yeah, now finally moving out with the rest of her army. We'll probably expand down here in the meantime. Okay, actually, while waiting? Not even counter. Okay. I mean, it could be quite difficult to actually counter-engage this, because she would have the same problem, having to walk up the ramp and trying to dish out damage. Maybe it would be a good idea to just sneak in from behind, tearing down these rocks, hoping that your opponent is not paying attention, and then you could just walk in. But I think the first thing she really wants to do is find that pesky proxy building and destroy it. And there she finds it. Ooh, even an oracle being produced, but yeah, that doesn't work out at all. Killing off the pylons first, and will then finally take out that tech over here while expanding in the meantime. Yeah, and that's of course, again, the biggest problem for Lady Azylis. Lady Azylis just has to play catch-up like crazy. Like I said, the income is really not that bad, since most of the bases of Jailbreaker are mined out and thus overly saturated. So actually the income is kinda okayish, because she's taken her own second base, her own natural base, so late that she now has a lot of minerals left, while her opponent has already mined hers out completely, almost, and has to wait until that third gets up. But once this third gets up, she will just have the economic advantage once more, because she can just transfer a lot of these oversaturating probes towards her third, immediately saturating it, and thus giving thus giving her a bigger income and a bigger economical advantage. That was what I actually wanted to say right from the get-go. So in the meantime, we have a few immortals being produced. She's seen that her opponent has gone for a lot of stalkers, has actually not seen the blink tech, I guess, but yeah, is probably expecting her opponent to go for stalkers once more. Does she actually know about the... No, she doesn't. She doesn't know about the Templar's Archive, doesn't know about the Archons, just is probably assuming that her opponent will go for lots of stalkers, and thus she just wants to have the counter units with immortals and later on speed lots or charge lots. So let's see. Okay, Forge building some upgrades. Okay, seems as if both just want to grant each other a little bit breathing room. Jailbreaker is does not really need to deal any damage to her opponent right now. She knows that she's ahead and can just take her sweet time in order to get more ahead, as Artosis has been saying so often. Okay, just planting down a pylon over here. It might work as a reinforcement pylon, but it's also good, and maybe that's the biggest idea right now, to just delay this base and getting an information once this base gets taken. Because of course, gold bases are one way to maybe get back into a game where you are economically behind. So taking out the observer of her opponent, but Jailbreaker has just scouted that her opponent has just taken a third base over here, while her own is already saturated and she's now taking a fourth behind it. Yeah, just playing the macro game. I mean, it's a good decision. She might even be able to just walk across and kill off what her opponent has and finish it right here, but why would she risk it? I mean, right now she can just lay back. She knows that her opponent has the duty to deal some damage, to attack and deal damage, and maybe lose more important units in the process. But yeah, she's so far ahead and will even be more ahead once this Nexus pops. Getting the upgrades, already has the upgrade lead by a significant margin. And yeah, actually not much that Azylis can do right now, even getting some other pylons over here. Yeah, like I said, just wanting to make sure that there are no hidden bases, no ninja bases anywhere that she's missed. And might even, like I said, again, use these for warp-ins later on. I mean, she's not really going into a Dark Templar tech, so it's probably just for scouting purposes, as far as I can see. Probes moving towards the fourth base. Saturating it right now, and now I think we can have a look at the income tab. Right now even Lady Azylis is looking better, because like I said, I mean, she also has a third base up right now, and her natural base is a little bit more healthy than that of her opponents, but with that third base going up, we should see her income rise back again. And in the meantime, Lady Azylis has actually managed to catch up with most of the workers here. Yeah, that's the problem if you get contained for quite some time. You just dry out all of your bases, and once you finally manage to get out, you actually need those bases desperately in order to keep up, or to keep your economy going. That's maybe the better way to say it. So, Zealots. Okay, more and more Zealots. She has charge already, waiting for the shields upgrade. Is Jailbreaker there, since she again just goes for a hell of a lot of Archons. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you face Jailbreaker in the future, be aware of that. She likes her Archons, and she likes her Protoss Plasma Shields as well. Might want to make use of that fact, if you know her playstyle a little bit better. And now both ladies just massing units, sitting there. It's, like I said, it's Wings of Liberty and Heart of the Swarm all over again. But yeah, I mean, this army, I don't know. Nah, this army, I mean, the Void Rays are nice, but it's only 3 of them. The Immortals are nice as well. The Zealots might actually keep the units back for a little bit, but once these Zealots crush into this Archon force, they just will get toasted in an instant. So yeah, these Archons, I mean, have a look at that. It's 10 friggin' Archons. Once these Zealots get close, they just get roasted. There's nothing they can do against it. So the Zealots will just die immediately. And then the only thing left are the Archons of her own, but there's way less. And then some Void Rays, but yeah, the Archons deal splash damage, and we have a lot of Blink Stalkers available as well, with better upgrades. So in a direct engagement, I think Jailbreaker should easily win this. And now she moves out. She's getting closer to 200, probably just wants to see if she can make something happen. Has a lot of Void Rays all over the map for vision, for blocking the bases, but also now for reinforcement purposes. Although it will take a little bit longer to warp in units, but she will still be able to reinforce close. And here it comes, the big engagement. And like I said, okay, actually good for her. A lot of these units were actually standing over here, but then the Archons just fired into that big group of Zealots, obliterating them as we speak. Actually, the Stalkers not even being microed, now finally blinking forward, taking out that Void Ray over there. Yeah, most of the Archons have died, but it doesn't actually matter. Still, some of them are left over. We have a lot of Stalkers and the Colossus in the back as well. Now walking right into the straight. GG, well played. Good luck in the tournament. And Jailbreaker takes the series 3-1.